What's going on, guys? It's your boy Evan. Week one was crazy to say the least. A lot of wild games to unpack, a lot of pretty ridiculous shuffling in my power rankings. We're going to roll here with a week two NFL power rankings heading into week two. We got our game tonight, primetime Thursday night game. It's Chiefs versus the Chargers. Showdown there, Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Bear with me, guys. I've been sick all week. I'm still pretty fucking sick. But I'm still trying to get these videos pumped out. I've redone my power rankings, and we'll go through team by team. And I was putting out wins. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the wins videos because it takes a little while to put. I'm using slides, and it takes a little while to put the slides together. I keep seeing a gentleman who uses some sort of internet website where he can just click the games. I haven't checked into that. But what I'll do is as I go through my power ranking, I'll just break down a little bit of what stood out with the team, any pluses or any good things or negative things that come out of each game, obviously. You guys can be surprised by these power rankings a little bit because we had such a weird set of variants across all these NFL games. There's teams that shouldn't have won that won. There's teams that shouldn't have won that performed really well. You had teams that are really good, really prove that they're really good. You had some teams really leapfrogs teams. Then you had some teams that win or lose kind of performed around where I thought they were. So there's definitely a few teams where you're like, man, how come you only moved them up so far? Or how come you only moved them back so far? Why did this team stay stagnant and didn't go up or down? I have good reason for every single one. So just, hear me out and we'll get into it. So we're going to start with the power rankings over here. Let me get the slideshow going. All right, so New York Jets, number 32. So the New York Jets, this game was actually interesting early on, and they dropped down 5 points. And it's solely because I think the performance that they put on is probably similar to the performances they'll probably put on until Wilson gets back. And I'm not saying that Wilson's going to come in and save the Jets, but it's Joe fucking Flacco out there running the show. He threw for over 300 yards and he had a touchdown, but he just wasn't inefficient. He was just inefficient. And I'm not a proponent of throwing the ball 60 times unless you're like the Saints or whatever. But their average yards on the ground were under 4 yards a carry. They were struggling to push the rock. And then when the second half came, they had no choice but to start hucking it down the field because they were playing from behind. And when you look at the numbers, there was I thought for the positives for the Jets, there was a couple kids that stood out. Corey Davis, I thought, played well. Didn't get in the end zone, but he had 6 catches for 72 yards. Garrett Wilson showed flashes of potential. Same with Elijah Moore. We already know what Elijah Moore could do, but Garrett Wilson, he caught 4 passes for 52 yards, but, you could see he's a smooth route runner. When he gets the ball in his hand, his ability to make dudes miss. Some of those underneath routes, he caught a couple passes and made some Ravens defenders look silly, so we really like the Jets coming into the season and possibly being better, but, you're not going to see what their potential is until, Wilson gets back. So, on the other hand, for the Ravens, Lamar did his thing. They actually didn't average that. They averaged a modest, 3 points something on the ground, too. Early sledding. Once they started to pass the ball, they actually took advantage of a couple deeper passes on this team, which, I didn't expect them to be able to do. I thought this Jets defense was going to be really good. I figured that if they did win, it'd be more of a balanced attack, but they ended up finishing them off in the second half through the air. Couple nice passes. Duvernay had 2 touchdowns, and then Rashad Bateman burnt someone for a pretty hefty touchdown. Bateman's underrated, man. He doesn't look like he's that fast, but he's an underrated route runner, and I think his speed's a little underrated, so the Baltimore Ravens after this win have obviously moved up, and you'll see that later. But, yeah, Jets sliding back 5. I just think it's going to be tough sledding for the Jets, and they're going to probably dig themselves into a hole here. Not a big fan of the coach. Then he came out and said he was taking receipts for everyone and then he apologized for acting like that. But it stinks. On paper, I do like what they have offensively. They're dinged up on the offensive line. I just, if this team had some good quarterback play, it could be a better team. They played staunch defense in the beginning, but I think being having younger players on that defense and stuff, I just feel like they couldn't. Once the Baltimore Ravens figured them out, started taking shots deep, They couldn't overcome it. Atlanta Falcons, they're going to stay stagnant. I know they had a close game with the Saints, which I didn't expect them to have a close game with the Saints. Drake London obviously showing that he's going to come out the gate playing really well. I think he had like 4 catches for 70 yards or something like that. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, he had, what do you have here? He had, 5 catches for 74 yards. He's one of the most interesting prospects in this draft because I've seen areas where I've always wondered growing up. I know tight ends are sometimes glorified slot players, but I always thought to myself, when are they going to get a big body wide receiver and like come out with like a big type slot guy who can play on the boundary and do a lot of stuff in the middle? It looks like, as he goes on, he's going to be able to run the whole route tree. I like Drake London a lot. Really good after the catch. Plays tough. Supposedly he's nursing an injury. Kyle Pitts really didn't show up for them. I mean, if you remember my early power rankings, I thought this team could be fun offensively. Cordero Patterson, 120 yards and a touchdown. Mariota ran for 70 yards and a touchdown. If that's going to be something that's going to be consistent from this team, they're definitely going to put up points. But their defense, their defense got destroyed. I didn't expect the Saints defense or the Saints offense to play this good. Jameis played good. He threw like 60-some% for 2 touchdowns. And then Jarvis Landry, 114 yards, man. Michael Thomas got in the end zone twice. If this team could just not give up points to teams, and we thought the strength of this team was going to be defense, or the Saints team would be defense. If they could not give up the points, man, New Orleans could be good. But Atlanta's going to stay where they stay. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility they were going to be this close. I mean, it's not super surprised, but I just thought these teams didn't match up well. So based off some of the teams that are above them, I had to make Atlanta's stock's not going to move for me. Houston Texans, even though they had a close game, is another team. The teams above them are too high. I'm not going to move their stock really all that far. The team they played, I also think is a little bit overrated. What is it there? Indianapolis. We'll touch on that later. There were some things I liked from Houston, though. I thought Derek Stingley showed flashes here and there, playing well. He had a nice pass deflection in the end zone. Some of their guys did a pretty good job getting open, I thought. And Davis Mills, still to me a work in progress. I mean, he threw in the 60% range in terms of accuracy. He threw a couple tubs. But you could still see that he missed. He had a couple opportunities there where he could have taken advantage of Brandon Cooks down the field, albeit Cooks had 7 catches for 82 yards. But, he's got to do a better job finding Cooks when he's open. There's a couple plays where Cooks was open down the field, and I thought he could have found him. But and Nico Collins, only 2 catches for 26 yards. Not too happy about that. And then their defense played better than I thought it was going to. Their defense came out, played hard. I don't know who this Kabu Kruger-Hill kid is, but he's out there racking up the tackles. Obviously, when you play against the Colts, you got to stop the run. He racked up the tackles. They played better pass defense, really, in terms of not giving up too many touchdowns there, but they give up 300-something yards. I thought when you look at the numbers, you would think they would give up more than that. Jonathan Taylor still ran all over them. But, again, I can tell people all the time with tackles, you can get 15 tackles a game all you want. Show me a guy gets 15 tackles a game most of the time. They're inefficient. Jonathan Taylor still ran for 161 yards. But the numbers are still a little bit deceiving. This game was 20-20. When you look at what this team did on paper, if you didn't know the score, you'd think it'd be a blowout. So Houston's going to stay neutral for me. Again, they got some good young players. And can you believe that Brandon Cooks is only like 28 or 29, that guy? Wonder what his evaluation is going to be if he can play another 3 or 4 years. He's going to have really good numbers by the time his career's over with. Just to think, when I was younger, he played for the Saints on some of their runs. But the next team, jumping up 3 points. Sadly, I'm pretty sure they lost someone. I'm not sure who it was that they lost. But based off their performance, going out there and beating a really good Denver Broncos team, making it a close game, although I do think that the Broncos, I don't know, man. Everyone freaked out about Nate Hackett and the coaching and all that stuff. Russ was a little inefficient, in my opinion, but they just couldn't get it done. I find it weird that they came out and dropped this. A couple of questionable play calls. But, Man, Seattle Seahawks, they came out, they moved the ball. Geno Smith had 195 yards through the air. Rashad Penny rushed for about 60 yards. And more Jordan Brooks. I was really impressed with Jordan Brooks. I watched Jordan Brooks throughout some of the stuff that I seen on the game, and he just kept making flashes, and so did this guy Uchenna Nwosu. Nwosu had a sack, he had a pass breakup. He looked like a pretty nice utility player. Quandre Diggs is underrated. He's back there prowling around, and it was Jamal Adams that got hurt. So this team going forward, it looks like there's potential for this team to be a little feisty defensively. Losing Jamal Adams, that's going to really hurt them. But they held a team that's got really good offensive pieces and a solid offensive line to 16 points. You can't be mad at it. When your quarterback is not that great, your offensive line is not that great. It's a real good X factor to have a quarterback that's mobile, that's a veteran that can get the ball to some of the playmakers and run it too. I found this game to be very interesting. It was a primetime game. Russ and those guys are going to lick their wounds, man, and come back. It's a game they shouldn't win. So, but I mean, I think it's a really great win for Seattle. I don't see them maintaining it. I think going forward they'll probably slide back, but that's just me. Chicago Bears up 2. So to me, this is one of the more impressive wins. And I think it's a more meaningful win because I really loved the 49ers coming into this year. When you look at it on paper and when you watch the game, at times I don't know what to make of these two quarterbacks. I truly think Fields is more talented of the two, but even Trey Lance, you see the ball pops off his hand. Like sometimes he makes really good plays. Sometimes he really doesn't make plays. I went back and evaluated a little bit. I didn't think he played that great, but Chicago came out there. And Justin Fields faced one of the better defenses. Now, he only threw for 121 through the air, but he got a really good push up there with Khalil Herbert. Fields ran for 28 yards. Montgomery, they had trouble with rushing with Montgomery. David Montgomery had 17 carries for 26 yards. Luckily, they played really well on defense. There's a lot of young guys that I do not know stepping up to play some stellar defense over the weekend. There was one gentleman that just kept getting home, whether it was pressure, and I'm going to find his name. He just kept sticking out to me. He was just making plays all the time. Dante Pettis, he's ass, but somehow he caught a 51-yard pass without a broken play. Equinemius St. Brown, he's ass, but he caught a touchdown somehow. Just Fields is super talented. He can run. He's got arm talent. This is one of the more odd games. They played defense, essentially. They couldn't get a push really rushing, besides Khalil Herbert. And Fields only threw for 121 yards. They still got the win defensively. So, yeah, some guys that stuck out for me for defensively for the Bears. Obviously, Roquan Smith. And this is what a stat line is more indicative of than a team that's really good at stopping usually really good at stopping the run. Let me find it here. Yeah, so they held this team to around 100 yards rushing. When you look at this, Roquan Smith, 9 total tackles. Kyler Gordon stepped up, 6 tackles. Dominique Robinson is this kid. He had 2 sacks, 5 tackles. Jaquan Brisker, who was one of my favorite players from last year, Jalen Johnson, they all played really, really well. This kid, Dominique Robinson, he played his fucking ass off. Defensive end for them. I don't even know who he plays for. I don't remember him being in a lot of the scouting reports I used to look at and stuff. I don't remember scouting him, but that kid was coming off the edge, getting home on the quarterback, just perfect storm of really good defense, and then Fields getting the ball down the field to some guys and making plays with his legs. Big win for Chicago. Shows a little promise. Fields still has to do better with his decision-making, but good job to him keeping his eyes up the field on Pettis and finding that play. He looked like he wanted to tuck and run it on the Pettis touchdown, and then he flipped his eyes to the right and seen Pettis was wide open. He just turned and flicked it to him for that 51-yarder. But I'm a big fan of Justin Fields. The Bears have been in the basement for a while. I'm hoping that they can get it together. I hope this isn't a fluke. I'm hoping they can be sneaky good on defense and just get a lot. Cole Kmet, I want to touch on. Cole Kmet. Where the fuck was Cole Kmet in that game, man? He was ass. All right? He didn't have any catches. Fucking crazy. Darnell Mooney was a no-show, too. But you know, we'll see going forward. Bears +2. That's where the Bears are at. Jacksonville Jaguars. So they take a minor step back. I had them originally at 26. They actually didn't play that bad against the 49ers. Or not the 49ers. The fucking Washington Commanders. They were getting beat early. And then they started to rally back. I mean, this was like a game that was kind of like a momentum flip. Early on, the Commanders went on a run for the first 2 quarters. And then all of a sudden, in the third quarter, Jacksonville went on a run. In the fourth quarter, they went on a run. But at the very end of the fourth quarter, they piled on a few more points, 14 points. Just a few more to their 10 in the fourth. Trevor Lawrence, he was inaccurate. Again, some of his decision-making. I don't know if it's because the offensive line is not that great, but he had a tub. He had 1 interception. Surprisingly, James Robinson came back after an Achilles. I really have always thought that the Achilles tear is worse for basketball players because the amount of shifting and agility and stuff on a constant basis they have to do, jumping and stuff. James Robinson came back after this Achilles, and he fucking tore it up. James Robinson, 11 rushes, 66 yards, a touchdown. He also added in a catch for a touchdown. And then Christian Kirk, they spent money on Christian Kirk. He went out there, gave him over 100 yards, didn't get in the end zone. Defensively, Devin Lloyd. I thought Devin Lloyd looked really good next to Aluakun. I always forget how to spell his name. Fuyasade Aluakun. They looked great next to each other. I thought Devin Lloyd really just a really instinctive player. Like, he just pops off when you watch the tape. Andre Sisco, Syracuse guy, played well. Trayvon Walker got an interception somehow. I actually didn't see the full game. I've just watched bits and pieces of it. I still think this team's going to be tough and scrappy. I just think they got to hone in the efficiency. I mean, still putting up 22 points on a team that a lot of people thought, are going to win the division. Now with that roster, they could now with Carson Wentz's arm. But Jacksonville doesn't take too far of a step back for me. So Jacksonville 27. Now this is the biggest fall. The Dallas Cowboys. So a lot of people will probably give me shit for dropping them 13 points. But, you already had injuries. And then you lost a few more guys over the weekend. And then you lost arguably your best player at the most important position, which is quarterback. I just don't see how, until Dak comes back, and even come back off an injury, you got to ease him back in. I just don't see how this team is going to stay afloat. They had Dak most of the game. They still struggled to move the ball. Not much going to the pass or the run game, really. I didn't think Tampa looked that great either in that game, but, that's for later on. But, Dak was inefficient, threw an interception. Zeke averaged 5 yards on the ground. Dak, they actually didn't throw it all that much. Weren't converting on third down. Dalton Schultz played okay, but no one else really played all that great. Defensively, Micah Parsons did his thing. He always does his thing. Micah Parsons, got to quarterback a couple times. It looked really explosive. I don't think he's going to be the have any concerns. Their corners, and that's the thing, is their corners were giving up chunk plays the whole entire time. Teams are passing the ball now. You got to be able to stop teams from passing the ball, man. Run the ball all you want, but when your corners are giving up chunk plays like that, they're probably going to have to 100% lean on Zeke now. And I just think that's going to be easier for teams to game plan against them because they still have really good weapons. They get Gallup back, but they're going to have Cooper Rush throwing the ball, who actually in his only start didn't play bad. He actually was throwing darts in that first start. Could it be enough for them going forward if Dak's really only about 4 or 5 weeks? In their division, it might be enough to keep them afloat. Like, they hope at best to maybe, win 2 games while Dak's out. If they can win, a game or 2 while Dak's out, then it'll put them in position to possibly make some sort of a comeback. Because you got to remember, most likely the team that wins this division isn't going to have a high win total. Not because it's a tough division. It's just because, it's tough divisions for multiple reasons. But none of the teams are, in my opinion, as great as I thought they were going to be so far through week 1. And we'll get to the Eagles later because, anyways. thought I'd see more from the Eagles. But so, New England Patriots, they slide 3. New England is who I thought they were, pretty much, to quote Mr. Green, Coach Green. But sliding them back 3, they're just going to be a team all year who probably plays middle of the pack defense. They're going to run the ball a shit ton. They can't throw the ball downfield. I don't have much to say about the Patriots. They just don't have the juice. Slide them back to 25. Here's one of the more meaningful wins. Giants. I had them at 28, considering on how talented I thought some of the teams were in front of them. I'm going to bump them 4. But it's definitely going to be a very courteous 4. They're going to have to prove that they deserve to be bumped 4 and that they could possibly rise. Tennessee lost a lot of players. They have injuries, and I know you can say that about every team every single year. But, Giants, they hung in there. And, one thing I can't say, about running the football, I guess if you do rush it like 1,000 times, you're bound to spring shots off. They had a rushing play really work for them. At one point in the game, Barkley, I want to say he rushed for like a 70-yard touchdown, I want to say. I was actually watching the game when I was out of town, but Barkley looked good. He looked healthy. 18 carries, 164 yards, 9.1 yards, touchdown. Daniel Jones sprinkled a little run in there. Sterling Shepard, 2 catches, 71 yards. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Barkley, people, sleep on the fact that, Barkley's just ultra talented when he's healthy. I do believe at the end of the day, with like we said early on, we had our original podcast episodes where we're talking about how good we think teams are. If your running back's your best player, the rest of the pieces around you aren't that great. The ceiling's not going to be that high for this team. But for the sake of making games close, I hope they can keep the defense stingy. I like the defense for the sole fact that they play tough. I think the defense is inefficient, but I think they play really tough. One of the dudes, I might have been Tay Crowder, who I knocked out a little because he's inefficient. But, Tay Crowder can bang. He hit Derrick Henry, took him clean off his fucking feet. He said, "For my country," and fucking just threw him 10 yards. That shit was fucking funny. But yeah, good win for the Giants here. Really good win. If they could just tighten up the efficiency on defense. If they could get a little more out of Daniel Jones, he did throw an interception. I mean, he didn't have to pass the ball a lot. But they're going to come into games where eventually, you're not going to have a day rushing like this all the time. They're going to be able to have to throw it at some point. They're going to get into games where Daniel Jones is going to have to step up. Luckily for him, in this opening game, he didn't really have to. Giants, bump 4, baby. Washington Commanders, I'm bumping them up 3. It looks to me like the Washington Commanders now that they added Carson Wentz with their explosive playmakers, guys that catch the ball out of the backfield, an okay offensive line, and really good defensive pieces. They look like that there's a possibility that, at least for the regular season anyways, that this team could be formidable. They look really explosive. I bumped them up 3 here. I don't know who their next game is. But Carson Wentz, I thought Carson Wentz didn't look that bad in this game. Again, you're bringing in a guy in who has arm talent, explosive arm talent. He's not a guy that doesn't lack skill, and I think people sleep on Wentz at times because in any given game, he did throw 2 interceptions. I still think his decision making is bad. He gambles. He threw less than 60%, but he still put the ball in the end zone 4 times. Antonio Gibson gave them solid runs on the ground, and that's all you really need in a high-level pass attack is your running backs just not turn the ball over, get you the tough yards when you get them. Gibson actually caught 7 passes, which that's where I really think his value lies is catching the ball. Terry McLaurin got in the end zone. Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson got in the end zone twice. This team has a lot of really good players, and I really think that if Carson Wentz can stay tighten it up a little bit, his efficiency, this team, I can see them being tough to beat. They don't regularly. They still have to get this man on the screen coming back. I'm not sure exactly when he comes back, but Washington gets a leap for me because they won a game I didn't think they were going to win. So, big ups to Washington. Now, this is where it starts to get a little odd because this team lost, but based off what's going on with a lot of these teams, I gave Carolina a +1 because I still think they're a decently talented roster. And they played a really talented roster minus the quarterback. And they had a really tough game. Baker Mayfield came out there, showcased he's got arm talent. There was a A lot of guys getting open downfield for this team as long as he can find them and hit them. I do think that this Carolina Panthers team, I think, might be a tough out. I don't think they're going to win their division or nothing, but I do think they're going to be a tough out. Jacoby Brissett, I didn't think Jacoby Brissett played all that well. But when you get 141 yards out of Nick Chubb, you're not going to get that on every single game. But, on those games, for now, if he can just not throw interceptions. Kareem Hunt got in the end zone. Seen a little something on Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6 catches for 60 yards. I mean, Amari Cooper was kind of quiet, 3 catches, 17 yards. But, this game was – I thought this game was a good game. These teams battled. Baker threw for 235 yards, touchdown, interception. McCaffrey only rushed for 33 yards off 10 attempts. But Robbie Anderson, I knock on him because I think he's a little overrated. But he can't get down the field and bust coverages. He has that speed. 5 catches, 102 yards. DJ Moore was a little bit quiet. McCaffrey caught 4 catches, but I actually still like this Carolina team. I think they're going to be competitive. And based off what the teams did behind them and where they slated them, I'm bumping them 1. Along with Cleveland, I bumped them 1. These two teams, to me, were close. I think overall Cleveland has a better roster, but I do think Carolina has players in certain positions to make it a tough out. I mean, they got good pass rushers. They got a deep defensive back core. They got offensive weapons. I think the difference is this team's offensive line is a lot better. Cleveland, I don't have much to say about Cleveland. They won a game I thought they were going to lose. I thought Carolina was going to beat them. They got close. Cleveland's just arguably one of the best rosters in the whole entire NFL. I mean, they have one of the best offensive lines. They have one of the best front sevens. They have one of the deepest defensive back cores. The only place they're probably really weak besides the quarterback position is I really don't think outside of Amari Cooper they're that deep in terms of their actual weapons. They're just going to run the ball, hope Jacoby Brissett doesn't turn the ball over too much until they get Deshaun Watson back, whatever that is, like week 11. So what 5? Detroit Lions. So this was one of the more interesting games, Detroit versus the Eagles, because somehow I thought this game was going to be a low-scoring game. Detroit was fucking – dude, Detroit was in there. They battled hard the whole entire game. Defensively, this team is still wicked inefficient. They picked up fucking Blake Martinez, who – is a physical specimen, is a freak athlete, but he's not good at reading offenses. He's just late to the party on almost every single play. Can tackle any man in the universe, but it's just not efficient. He's not getting the spots he needs to be. However, he is a freak. He did take a 350 lineman and pick him up and fucking judo slam him. I thought that was funny. But they're going to bring him in there. They're going to have his games where his sure tenacity and athleticism and disruption is going to help them out on defense. I mean, it's good to have a guy that can just be a wrecking ball and make a lot of tackles, in certain packages. But I found it odd that they picked him up. I wonder how many tackles he had in this game. Let's find out. Bet you he had a bunch of tackles. They still gave him a bunch of points. I don't even see his name on here. I'm pretty sure he played. Pretty sure Blake Martinez played for them over the weekend. Well, I thought I watched it on TV. I could be out of my mind, but Jared Goff didn't play that bad. 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did an interception, but DeAndre Swift, man, this offensive line's really good. DeAndre Swift, could he be the breakout candidate everyone thinks he is? 9.6 yards per carry, 104 yards, a touchdown. Jamal Williams got a couple goal line touches, got 2 touchdowns. Ahmad-Ra St. Brown doing his thing, 8 catches, 64 yards, a touchdown. DJ Chark got in the end zone. I want to know. Okay, yeah. So this game, to me, I thought was going to be a close game, but I thought the score was going to be lower. Detroit came out, surprised everyone offensively. Look, this offensive line's really good. If they could even get some of the skill level that is in Goff. Goff has high-level arm talent. If they can hone in his propensity to throw incompletions and turnovers and stuff, it looks like this team might be solid offensively. They do have the pieces. They do have the offensive line. Detroit, +5. Poor Jeff Okuda. I love that player. He needs to fucking get it together, dude, on defense. Such a good name, too. New Orleans Saints, they get a +2 bump. really because of based off how everything shook out with these games. To me, it wasn't that impressive of a win, but based off some of the teams, this is another team that's one of the better rosters. They get a +2 bump. They actually didn't play that well in pass coverage, even though they have one of the deepest quarter groups in the league. Jameis Winston looked really good. He threw for 300-something yards. This team's probably going to be able to put up points. It looks like they should be able to play defense once that gets all clicking. Their defensive personnel is too good to not play defense. This is just a weird week. I didn't expect the Falcons to come up and hang that many points. I think it's just going to be variance. I don't expect them to walk in and put up all the points and the yards they put up on everyone every single week like that. So, New Orleans Saints, +2. Tennessee Titans, they get a +1 for me. Even though the Giants get bumped up so much, Tennessee, like I said, they lost a lot of people. I really do think that 8 times out of 10, they should probably beat the Giants. I do think the team's still talented. Ryan Tannehill looked good. He was out there throwing darts. They didn't get much of a push on the ground. You have to be very exceptional in one domain or the other in order for you to not play a balanced game. You either have to be really fucking good at throwing the fucking football, or you have to be really, really good at running the football. Normally, Tennessee is one of these teams that breaks the mold, where you can go on to serious runs in the playoffs if you're, rushing the ball 60% of the time. But I think this team has lost a lot of steam in the run game. They were throwing balls to some of their running backs. What is it there? Fucking Dillard or Hilliard or whatever was one backup running back. He was just running down the field, running past dudes, busting defenses and catching touchdowns. I don't know what to make of this team going forward. I like Mike Vrabel. I think he's a really good coach. I think this team is still really good on paper. I think they'll fight. They gave up a lot of yards to Barkley. Normally, they were one of the best pure rush defensive teams last year. Hopefully, this first week was variance for them. So, Tennessee Titans, -1, sitting at 18. Number 17, Pittsburgh Steelers. So, I bumped the Pittsburgh Steelers up 2 because on paper, I still really don't think they're all that great on paper. Obviously, I'm a Bengals fan. This is non-bias. If it takes 15, or if it takes 5 turnovers, 3 of which were super fucking sloppy, and a bunch of exchanges, missed field goals and shit, and overtime for them to just barely squeak out a win against this better team. I mean, their offense was really bad. They made a couple key plays when they needed to get field goal range, but for the most part, the offense only scored 7 points. And we were still just knocking down at the door. I got my money's worth. We had a lot of fun out there at the Bengals home game. It was fun to see the stadium, but Pittsburgh's another one of those teams. They're a quarterback away from being really good. I love their wide receivers. Their running back got a little bit dinged up. Their offensive line's kind of buds. But they showed yet again they're going to be able to get pressure on everyone all year. They had a bunch of sacks against the Bengals. Mika Fitzpatrick made a really good play on the sideline for the ball. The defense showed up. I'll give them +2 for getting the win. But going forward, they need to show more on offense if they're expected to win. You're not gonna get 5 turnovers all the time against NFL teams and expect to only score 7 points and win, especially against the more high-powered teams. So, but respect to them, +2. Neutral. Indianapolis Colts sits back at 16 again. They tied Houston. I don't have much to say about the Colts. I've said the same thing about the Colts. You swapped out a guy whose arm is fried you swapped out high-level arm talent for a dude whose arm's fried just so hope that he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I didn't think Matt Ryan played that great over the weekend. Obviously, you know what you're getting when you roll into town with Jonathan Taylor. They were able to move the ball. I think Taylor had 161 yards. Matt Ryan, he threw for 352 yards, but he also threw an interception, and he threw in the low 60s. I just didn't think he made great decisions with the ball. Luckily for him, Michael Pittman catches absolutely everything. He had 9 catches, 121 yards with a touchdown. It's easier not to make those mistakes. We got a guy that's pretty underrated, has a big catch radius. But Jonathan Taylor, they sat behind him, 31 carries, 161 yards. Still not good enough defense, not enough juice to get past the Houston Texans. They're going to stay neutral for me. They are talented on both sides of the ball, but I just think this team's going to be a team that either barely misses the playoffs or a team that ones and dones in the playoffs. I've said this for a few years here about the Colts. They'll run their way into being insignificant, so neutral. Now, this is probably the oddest one. So, this Arizona Cardinals team is still really talented. The Chiefs went out there and showed that they probably are the best team in the league right now. The Chiefs played really well on defense and carved this defense up. Like, I don't even know how many yards this team gave up. It had to be like 400 or 500 yards. Could have been more, but they lost 44-21. I still think this team is better than a lot of the teams under them, but they still have an elite quarterback at that position. Patrick Mahomes threw for almost 400 yards. He had five touchdowns, threw 80-something%. That kid Isaiah Pacheco that everyone was talking about, he had 62 rushing yards and a touchdown. They pretty much did whatever they want to this Arizona Cardinals team, but this Cardinals team is still talented on both sides of the ball, considering who's underneath them and considering it's week one. I had no choice but to only bump a one. I can't put that behind a lot of the teams that are behind them, so I demoted them one spot. +3, Las Vegas Raiders. So this is another odd one for people. I thought the Raiders played solid in defeat to the Chargers. There's definitely some things that I see, though, that I did not like in this game. A lot of people thought this defense, Derek Carr tried to do a little bit too much, threw 3 interceptions. And I don't think people understand that this defense from the Raiders is not good. Chargers, in my opinion, have their best game, still hung 24 points up on them. Devontae Adams did his thing, 141 yards. Offensively, they'll probably be able to score, but you got to score more than 19, especially against these good teams. Outside of Adams, they didn't really get much from their guys. Defensively, they just looked like shite. But based off where everyone is, I still think this offense is probably going to be productive, probably move the ball once they get it together. Derek Carr is definitely underrated. I didn't think they looked as bad. It's going to be tough sledding for them on defense, but offensively, I think once this team gets it together, they'll be competitive. So, Las Vegas Raiders +3. Sitting at 13, San Francisco 49ers -4. There's not much for me to say about San Fran. They're still the more talented teams. Like I said, against the Bears, I just thought that Trey Lance just looked a little inefficient. I thought he didn't make the best decisions with the football. And I don't know if it was the rain that affected both of these teams or whatnot, but it poured there at Soldier Field. And I just feel like this offense wasn't ready for how disciplined and how well this defense played. I still like the upside you get from his ability to run, Trey Lance, the explosive plays. They got to do a better job spreading the wealth around to these guys on offense. Ayuk looked all right at different times, caught some nice balls, but again, they only put up 10 points on a team that I thought they would steamroll. So San Francisco, they were in my top 10. Now they're bumped out -4. Miami Dolphins +2. So they had a big win against the Patriots. Like I said, the Patriots aren't that great, but they're well coached. Miami showed, I think, Tua completed like a pass to like 8 different guys. Every single guy was getting worked in on offense. Obviously, it looks like they're going to lack the big actual downfield plays, but it's looking like Tyreek can just, every time I see Tyreek play, it looks like he can wear different hats. They're probably going to use a lot of crossing routes, catch a lot of shorter balls. They're just going to let him and Jalen Waddle work underneath. A lot of balls got thrown to the safety valves, the running backs. And they played really good defense. They shut a team that really is all that explosive, albeit, but they still held them to down to 7 points. They won the game 27, so +2 for Miami. I think this team, and once they fine-tune everything, they give Tua a little more confidence, start hucking the ball down the field. I do think this team can be dangerous. They're going to be really good defensively, so Miami at 12. -3, Denver Broncos. Can't lose to Seattle. That's all I got to say. -3. Philadelphia Eagles. They are going to stay at number 10, and it's solely because they probably should have beaten the Detroit Lions by more. I did like the Lions coming the season. I thought they'd be better, but I didn't expect the Eagles to almost lose this game to them. I expected more from the Eagles defensively. Offensively, they look like they're going to be just as potent. I may have to make a trade for Jalen Hurts, I'm happy about that. Offensively, I think they're going to keep moving the ball. I just think their weapons looked really good. That offensive line is still going to be really good. They pretty much did whatever they wanted to do offensively, but I did not expect those defense to be as inefficient as it was. Like, they just gave up a lot of passes in the middle of the field. Not good if you're a Philly fan. I know they got the win, and that's all that matters, but you should probably be worried about this defense here against Detroit. Unless Detroit's going to be like an outlier team this year. So Philly stays put at number 10. Baltimore Ravens. Again, people like to talk shit, sleep on Lamar. This team made the adjustments in the second half against a solid defensive unit from the Jets. It took advantage of them through the air. Lamar, showed that he shows time and time again that he has a chops throwing the ball down the field. People sleep on Lamar Jackson. They talk shit. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm trying to see how accurate he was. Yeah, so it was tough going in the first two quarters. There wasn't a lot of points scored, but the Ravens burst out with 14 second half. Lamar, he threw again. He has potential to throw beautiful deep balls, thread the needle. He just has to be more consistent, more accurate. I mean, I'd have to go back and watch. I don't know if it's the decision making or if it's what it is, but 17-30. He did throw 3 touchdowns. They didn't move the ball much offensively, but he had a couple nice plays to Devin Duvernay and Rashad Bateman. I do think this team's ability to play defensively is still going to be high, but I mean it is the Jets, so we got to hold our breath and see them against a more talented team. But I bumped them up 2 spots. Number 8, Green Bay. I dropped them 2. Green Bay. They did get blown out by the Packers. They moved Justin Jefferson around a lot, which is what I think you should do with guys that can run the whole route tree. You move guys around, you get mismatches, really take advantage of them, attack defenses, attack the field in different ways. They just laid an egg defensively, and obviously, as you can see, that game might have been different had guys not dropped balls. He hit Christian Watson on a deep ball, and he fucking dropped it. I do expect Green Bay to bounce back. They have one of the better offensive lines. They have the best quarterback. They have one of the best defenses. But you can't come out and lay an egg. A lot of people thought Packers should win this game. Some people thought the Packers were going to lose. I actually picked the Packers to lose in my parlay. So I was right about that. Packers, it's going to be tough. They're gonna get a lot of wins this year, in my opinion, based off the fact they have one of the better rosters. But once they start going against good teams that have a lot of firepower, unless one of these kids steps up, whether it's Dobbs or Watson, it's gonna be tough for them to win shootouts, even though Rodgers isn't that good. So we'll see. Bengals -2. For all the reasons I said before, Bengals were right there knocking on the door at the end of the game. Burrow played really bad in the first quarter. There was a lot of sloppy fucking turnovers, fumbles, interceptions. Still almost won the game, but the way I see it is we're not going to have 5 turnovers in a quarter most games. Not trying to be stupid. I feel bad for Dallas next week without Dak because I feel Burrow's going to go in there and light up the scoreboard. But they are going to get bumped back a tick. Things I was encouraged about, they played really good fucking defense. They held the team offensively to only 7 points. Really good run defense. Were solid for the most part in the pass defense. They gave up a couple key plays down the stretch. There's a good play call from Mike Tomlin. But I expect to bounce back, getting T. Higgins back. This team will be fine. But Cincinnati bumped back for 5-7. Minnesota Vikings up 6. Let's go. Jefferson Gritty. I know my boy Todd's fucking like, let's go. Freaking out. Again, this is a team who went out there, got an offensive coach. The rules are designed in the NFL now so that you can really take advantage of teams no matter how good their defenses are. Most of the teams that are winning now, their coaches are offensive coaches. They know how to go up there and fucking scheme these wide receivers open. With enough quarterback talent, you can light up any fucking defense. What did Justin Jefferson have? This is a one-man fucking show over the weekend. Well, they won 7-23. Kirk Cousins, He was accurate, 23 of 32, 277 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has enough talent. Dalvin Cook, 90 yards on the ground. Justin Jefferson, 9 catches, 184 yards, and 2 tubs. Man, I know it's week 1. He's on pace for a crazy year, though. This team's got the juice. They got Adam Thielen still is great in the red zone, one of the best red zone players in the past decade, if you look at the numbers. Irv Smith Jr.'s back, even though he didn't catch a ball. KJ Osborne is back in the slot for them. Dalvin Cook catch balls on the backfield. Defensively, this team showed up. Jordan Hicks played really well for them. Cam Dantzler, underrated. Darius Smith had a sack. They're starting to get pressure. Hopefully Danielle Hunter stays healthy. I really love this Minnesota Vikings team. I had them higher than everyone else in the power rankings. I'm pretty sure, I had them 12. Most places I had them hovering anywhere between like 22 to 18. Minnesota's real this year. So, hit the skull, boys. Number 5, Los Angeles Chargers. They went out and did what they were supposed to do against the Raiders. Thought they should have smacked the Raiders, which is why I bumped the Raiders a little bit higher. This team should probably dominate the Raiders. They lost. They did lose Keenan Allen, supposedly. But, man, the combination of Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack is going to be fucking straight beast mode for this team. They shored up their front 7. I really think this team's going to be one of the teams that they went out, handled their business. I don't know who they play. Oh, no, they play tonight. They play the Chiefs. I do think the Chiefs will beat them tonight. I think the Chiefs are going to be the team to beat this year. This game should be awesome. I hope it's a fucking shootout. Los Angeles went out and proved that they're going to be battling up there at the top of this division. And the Raiders, we'll see where they go from here. I bumped them up a couple ticks, but, man, they got a lot of work to do. They kind of got bumped by default. Los Angeles Raiders, 5. Tampa Bay Bucks are going to stay neutral. They didn't look that great against the Cowboys, I thought. They're still potent offensively. Their defense actually didn't play too bad. Held the opposing team 3 points. But they've lost a lot of people. I think they went out there and did just enough, to play. They played just enough defense to hold that team 3 points. They did just enough on offense to get some points, give them a cushion, and they kind of coasted to the victory. Dak and Hurd helped them out a lot. I don't think Tampa is as good as the teams above them, so I put them neutral. I couldn't really raise them. It was expected for them to beat the Cowboys for most people, so Tampa, number 4. Los Angeles Rams. So this one is to be determined. I bumped them back too because there's clearly 2 better teams than them right now. But this is still one of the best teams in the whole entire NFL. They're stacked all over the place. I don't know what their problem was week 1. I truly think they were prepared for the pass rush for the Bills. The Bills just threw waves and waves of dudes. There was like 7 guys deep that were just disrupted, getting pressure. They just didn't really feel on sync on offense. Stafford made a lot of bad plays. I'm sure this team, especially with their coaching staff, is going to tighten it up, but I still think they're going to be a 10-plus win team. It's just the Bills are as good as some of us thought they were going to be, and I think the Bills just came out and punched them in the fucking throat. But the Rams are still one of the best teams in the league, so Rams -2. Ooh, get hurt, Buffalo fans. I'm not putting you number 1. Buffalo, going to stay neutral, number 2. What's to not like about Buffalo? Josh Allen's fucking fantastic. They spread the ball over the place. They still don't have Khalil Shakir, who's going to come and get some play from them as their 4th wide receiver. Very underrated rookie. They were able to move the ball around a little bit. Josh Allen was just like running motherfuckers over like this is like fucking like Lego Indiana Jones or some shit. Just running over motherfuckers. Hopefully, he doesn't get himself hurt. He seems pretty durable so far. Just his improvement, man, has been astonishing. And this defense, what was the craziest part about that whole entire game was they started 2 rookie quarters on the outsides. They could have been like, oh, we'll start Teron Johnson at one of the spots, but they kept Teron. Smart move. They kept Teron Johnson in the slot, who's one of the better slot corners. This team's deep. They didn't have Tre'Davious White, but the wily vets over the top, just did a really good job at safety backing up. Like Poyer and Hyde did a really good job backing up the young corners. The young corners played well. Cooper Kupp still did his thing. It played really well, but they did a really good job on a lot of the other stuff, like keeping routes underneath them. This team is fucking legit. and I expect them to just get better. So Buffalo stayed at number 2. Last but not least, Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said in our original podcast, we started breaking these teams down. I said Kansas City would do the same thing they do to everyone else, just with a different coat of paint this year. Patrick Mahomes is going to prove that he's in line to be the best quarterback in the league. Well, he went out there. He was super efficient. 9 of 39. What he threw? 360 yards, 5 touchdowns. They got a little push run of the ball up front. They got this new kid, Isaiah Pacheco, gave them good yards. And then defensively, man, this team was solid defensively. I mean, they gave up 20 points in a blowout win because they put up 44 of their own. But their front 7 was pretty solid. Their defensive backs played okay. I like some of their young defensive backs like Juan Thornhill, but I've said it a few times about some teams. Some of these really good teams that didn't play as well in certain spots, it's just about being efficient, getting that experience and thing, and tighten things up, as they would say. So, Kansas City Chiefs, number 1 in my power rankings right now. They play tonight against the Chargers, and Justin Herbert. Going to be a fucking fantastic Thursday night game. And I'll let you guys know what I think about that. Soon I'm going to have the guys on, maybe in a couple weeks, and we'll talk about maybe like 2 or 3 weeks what we see as a whole. We'll talk about like what teams we think have surprised us, what teams are going to take leads in their divisions and kind of separate themselves from other teams. The season's young. 1 week, don't freak out. We're having a lot of fun. Week 2 starts tonight. Pretty soon I'm going to start throwing up my tier videos for any of you guys that are interested. I'm going to do player tiers and fighter tiers. We haven't talked about MMA out here in a little while. I plan on starting to do that more. I actually won $2,000 almost on my fight picks over the weekend, so that was a big plus, even though Cincy fucking lost at home, but we still had a good time. Thought I was going to have a heart attack when Nate Diaz got that guillotine, but yeah, I'm gonna go and do some fighter tiers. I want to break down like a tier system for the fighters and make my opinions on like how good fighters actually really are, their primes and stuff. So I have some ideas for that, and eventually start breaking down some of these fight cards again like I used to. But until then, I'll see you guys soon. You can find me Mr. Nasty Time on Twitter, here on YouTube, and like I said before, or not Twitter, Twitch. I'm thinking about moving all my stuff to YouTube. I think I might start streaming on YouTube so I can put everything under one umbrella for you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section about my rankings. Let me know what you guys think about tonight's game. Let me know who you think's going to win right down in the comments section, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Later.